morning. Today we are going through chapter 6 and chapter 7 in the novel Animal Farm, written by George Orwell. Let's begin with chapter 6, Hard Labor of Animals. Animals begin to realize that their labor is for the benefit of their coming generation. They work hard because their labor is for themselves, not for human beings. The animals work like slaves that year, but they are happy knowing that humans won't profit from their efforts. They work 60-hour weeks through the summer, and in August, Napoleon announces that they will work on Sunday afternoons. This is voluntary, but animals who don't work follow the order will be provided with reduced rations. Animals do not want the reduced rations, so they follow him silently. The harvest is less successful this year, and bad luck means that the animals missed planting certain crops. The winter is guaranteed to be difficult. When Napoleon declares the intention to build the windmill, it comes as a very difficult job for them. There is a quarry on the farm and a store of other building materials, but the animals cannot break the rocks in the quarry without standing on their back legs. After a few weeks, the animals begin dragging huge stones to the top of the quarry and dropping them over the edge to shatter. The horses, sheep, Muriel, and Benjamin all drag stone to the site of the windmill. The process is exhausting. Boxer seems stronger than ever. He single-handedly keeps the other animals from sliding back down the hill, begins getting up 45 minutes before everyone else to work, and carries loads of stone to the windmill alone. Boxer takes the responsibility of breaking the stones by doing work overtime. Clover asks Boxer not to work hard, but he answers that he has been a true follower of Napoleon. All the animals are impressed by the labor of Boxer. Boxer is being encouraged to put national interest above his own, with the results that the novel shows later are tragic. That Boxer is so instrumental to this process, however, means that he looks like the ideal worker to other animals who will likely try to imitate his actions. The summer is reasonable for the animals. They don't have more food than they had under Mr. Jones, but they don't have less. The animals find that their methods of performing tasks are more efficient than human methods. And since the animals don't steal, they don't have to worry about maintaining fences and hedges. Despite all of this, late in the summer, the animals realize they need things like oil, cords, nails, dog biscuits, and horseshoes. Later, they will need tools, machinery, and seeds. Nobody knows how to get these things. One Sunday morning, Napoleon announces that Animal Farm will trade with the neighbouring farms for the items they need. He is going to sell hay, wheat, and later possibly eggs. Napoleon tells the hens that they should welcome this sacrifice. The problem with an isolated state, the novel shows, is that It is impossible to create everything the state needs. Thus, it will at some point become necessary to trade with the others. Remember, however, that trading with neighbouring farms would technically be forbidden by Old Major, as he made it very clear that the animals shouldn't have common interests with the humans, and trading with them qualifies as such. This shows then how those ideals are consistently being corrupted as the needs of the state evolve. Napoleon declares that by having trade relations with human beings, he will be able to solve these problems that are related to money. When animals come to know about declaration, they are confused. They remember the 7 commandments stating that the animals shouldn't engage in trade or use money. The 4 young pigs speak up timidly, but the growling dogs silence them, and the sheep begin bleating, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Now we are going through Whymper as the mediator. Napoleon explains that the animals won't have to see much of the humans, as he is hired a solicitor named Mr. Whymper to deal with their affairs. Mr. Whymper, a human being, is declared as a mediator between human beings and animals. He visits the farm every Monday and gives instruction. He also starts to follow the orders of Napoleon. The animals avoid him as much as possible, but they do pridefully watch Napoleon on 4 legs, giving orders to a 2-legged human. It is the subject of pride for the animals. Mr. Whymper appreciates the efficiency of the management by animals. He informs them that Mr. Jones has left for some unknown place. After the meeting, Squealer sets everyone at ease by telling them privately that they must all be imagining that they can't engage in trade or use money, but that this was just a rumor started by Snowball. This is comforting for the animals to hear. By offering Mr. Whymper as a character, Orwell is able to critique the capitalist countries and individuals who got rich working with the USSR while ignoring the humanitarian atrocities. Blaming Snowball for the rumors, meanwhile, saves Napoleon from having to admit how hypocritical and corrupt he is becoming. Other humans hate Animal Farm more than ever. They all believe that Animal Farm will go bankrupt at some point and that the windmill will fail. But against their will, they do develop a grudging respect for the animal's efficiency. They even begin to call it Animal Farm instead of Manor Farm. Rumors circulate that Napoleon is going to strike a deal with either Mr. Pilkington or Mr. Frederick, but not with both. No matter how corrupt it may be, for Napoleon to go against the 7 commandments and hire Mr. Whymper, the fact remains that this is still a great public relations prevent for him to be seen in such a powerful position over a human. This has the effect of both boosting his reputation and prestige at home, as well as authorizing him and Animal Farm in the eyes of the neighbouring farms. Next, we are going through the superiority of the pigs. In the beginning, the animals have decided to keep the farm house as a museum. But pigs break this resolution too. About this time, the pigs move into the farmhouse. They begin to live in the farmhouse. Squealer circulates to assure everyone that it's not actually true that there was a resolution forbidding animals living inside. It's necessary, since the pigs are the brains of the farm, for them to have a quiet place to work. Squealer convinced the animals that pigs are the leaders of the farm. Referring to Napoleon as leader, Squealer also insists that it is more dignified for Napoleon to live in a house. Despite Squealer's insistences, some animals are disturbed to learn that the pigs eat in the kitchen and sleep in the beds. Boxer brushes this off, but Clover remembers that there was a rule against sleeping in beds. She asks Muriel to read her the commandment about beds to confirm. But it now reads that no animal will sleep in a bed with the sheets. Clover doesn't remember this, but since it is in writing, she reasons that it must have always been this way. Notice how Squealer frames his argument. The pigs are doing such important and necessary work for the farm that they don't just deserve but truly need to live in the luxury of the farmhouse. When Clover decides everything is fine, since the commandment is in writing, it shows how easy it is to trick an uneducated population with a poor memory. There is little understanding that just because something's in writing doesn't make it true. Squealer, accompanied by a few dogs, passes by and helps out things in perspective for Clover. He points out that there never was a ruling against beds, since the word bed just refers to a place to sleep. Sheets are the problem, as they are human invention. He assures Clover that the beds are only as comfortable as they need, and the pigs need their sleep since they need to keep their wits about them. He asked the animals that if pigs are opposed by them, Johns will come to rule over the farm. Animals decide not to oppose the pigs. The pigs announce that they will get up an hour later than everyone else. Though Squealer is clearly splitting hairs here when he makes the distinction between beds and sheets, it feels impossible for Clover to push back at all because of the dogs. This shows how the fear and violence of an organization like the secret police allows powerful individuals to not have to make total sense in what they say, since what they say doesn't really matter that much. Because of the threat the dogs pose, Squealer could say almost anything and nobody would object. The animals are tired but happy when fall arrives. The stores of food for the winter are low after the sale of the hay and corn, but the windmill is almost halfway done, and that bolsters their spirits. After the harvest, the animals dedicate themselves to building up the walls of the windmill. Boxer even spends hours at night working alone, and everyone except Benjamin spends their spare time admiring the structure. Now we are going through windmill and storm. In November, however, a storm blows through. One morning, the animals wake and see that the windmill is in ruins. They run to the windmill and mournfully look at the fallen stone. Napoleon rushes to the site and snuffles around sharply. Snuffles means to breathe in quickly and repeatedly through the nose. He suddenly stops and quietly says that Snowball came in at night and destroyed the windmill. Napoleon sentences Snowball to death and announces rewards for anyone who captures him. They discover pig prints leading to a hole in the hedge near Foxwood, and Napoleon declares that they are Snowballs. He says that Snowball should be given capital punishment. He cries that the windmill will be rebuilt. Blaming the windmill's destruction on Snowball is a smart move for Napoleon, as it means that nobody is going to blame him for poor planning and not having a plan B. Further, he is then able to use this deflection to unite the animals against Snowball as a common enemy, and in doing so comes up with a way to convince the animals to work even harder in support of the state. Critical comments. The chapter deals with the negotiations of Napoleon with human beings. Napoleon, who intends to establish trade relations with human beings, violated the commandment of not having any relation with human beings. In Russia, Stalin declared for having business relations with the rest of the world, while Karl Marx did not permit his followers to contact capitalist governments of the world. In order to tarnish the image of Snowball, Napoleon spreads lies about him. Squealer becomes a more remarkable personality at the farm. The project of windmill is proposed by Napoleon, who once opposed the same project. Thus it becomes quite obvious that Napoleon has always been immoral in his actions. Squealer defends pigs from the criticism, and the note of satire becomes more strident. Squealer recalls the image of Dr. Goebbels, who said, "Repeat a lie 100 times and it passes for truth." ആ വർഷം മുഴുവൻ മൃഗങ്ങൾ അടിമകളെപ്പോലെ ജോലി ചെയ്തു. എങ്കിലും അവർ സന്തോഷമുള്ളവരായിരുന്നു. ഞായറാഴ്ചകളിലും അവർ കഠിനാധ്വാനം ചെയ്തു. നെപ്പോളിയൻ മനുഷ്യനുമായി വ്യാപാരം ചെയ്യാൻ വിംബർ എന്ന ന്യായവാദിയായ ഒരുവനുമായി സഖ്യമുണ്ടാക്കി. പന്നികൾ കിടക്കവിരിയും കിടക്കയും ഉപയോഗിക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങി. ജോൺസിൻ്റെ തിരിച്ചുവരവിനെ ഭയന്ന് മൃഗങ്ങളെല്ലാം അംഗീകരിച്ചു കൊടുത്തു. സ്നോബോളിൽ എല്ലാ കുറ്റകൃത്യങ്ങളും പഴിചാരിക്കൊണ്ടിരുന്നു. കാറ്റാടിമില്ല് നീണാൽ വാഴട്ടെ, അനിമൽ ഫാം നീണാൽ വാഴട്ടെ എന്ന പ്രഖ്യാപനവുമായി അധ്യായം 6 അവസാനിക്കുന്നു. Now we are going through chapter 7. Let's begin with the reconstruction of the windmill. The winter is bitter and cold, but the animals work hardly on the windmill, knowing that the humans will be thrilled if they don't finish on time. Human beings are of the opinion that the windmill had been destroyed by the storm because of its thin wall, not because of Snowball. The animals know better, but they decide to build 3-foot thick walls just in case. This work needs a large quantity of stones. Snow stops their progress for a while, and the animals struggle to feel hopeful. Boxer and Clover are not disappointed. Other animals who are discouraged to see the destructions. Squealer gives many speeches on the dignity of labor, but the animals find more inspiration in Boxer. Now we are going through reduction of rations. Napoleon announces the shortage of food in the farm. He also announces that an extra potato ration will be supplied to the animals in order to compensate them for the shortage of food. In January, rations are reduced when they discover that the potatoes went bad. The animals don't have much to eat and fear they will starve to death. But they conceal this from the outside world. Napoleon devises strategies to make it seem to Mr. Whymper that there is lots of food. Animals have no contact with Mr. Whymper. A few selected animals, mostly sheep, are communicated with him to say that the rations have been increased. Napoleon orders the almost empty bins to be filled nearly to the brim with sand, which is covered with the remained grain and meal. The effectiveness of Napoleon's campaign is to cast all humans as the enemy, who of course will be thrilled to see the animals fail. When Napoleon covers up the fact that they don't have food, it speaks also to the way that Napoleon feels he must look big and powerful to his enemies who may take advantage of his weakness. Near the end of January, Napoleon recognizes that he has to find grain somewhere. He spends most of time in the farmhouse, guarded by the fierce dogs. When he occasionally comes out, it's a ceremonious affair and dogs surround him. Squealer conducts the Sunday meetings. One morning he announces that the hens will need to surrender their eggs. Napoleon entered into a contract to trade 400 eggs per week for enough grain to support them until summer. The hens are enraged as they all plan to raise spring chicks, so they rebel. Hens lay eggs in the rafters at first, but Napoleon cuts their rations. The rebellion lasts 5 days, during which time 9 hens die before the hens give up. After 5 days, all the hens decide to follow the order of Napoleon. Napoleon insists that the 9 hens died of disease. Napoleon's current living conditions begin to situate him as a tried and true totalitarian leader. The hens rebellion can be seen as a parallel to a variety of rebellions that took place in the USSR in response to Stalin's 5-year plans. These included rebellions by sailors and farmers, specifically those farmers who were victims of the Holodomor genocide in Ukraine. Stalin cut off their food, resulting in millions of deaths. Now we are going through Napoleon's efforts to smear the image of Snowball. Rumors circulate that Snowball is hiding at Foxwood or Pinchfield while Napoleon's relationships with both farms improve. Animal Farm has a pile of timber. Mr. Whymper suggests selling the timber, and both Mr. Pilkington and Mr. Frederick want to buy it. Napoleon deliberates in his decision to sell, and whenever it seems he is close to selling to one farmer, rumors fly that Snowball is on that farmer's farm, and he changes his mind. He tells the animals that Snowball visits the farm in the night to do mischief. Early in the spring, the animals discover with horror that Snowball has been sneaking onto the farm. He supposedly comes in nightly to steal the corn, break eggs, and spoil the milk. Animals begin to blame everything wrong or upset on Snowball. This continues even when the animals find the key to the store shed under a sack of meal. In the years preceding World War II, Stalin flirted with making deals with both the Allies, here Mr. Pilkington, and with Hitler, here Mr. Frederick. This is symbolized in the novel by the sale of the timber, which would improve relations with whomever Napoleon chooses to sell to. Napoleon can essentially do whatever he wants and blame bad things on someone else. It becomes apparent that all of these bad things are staged when the animals find the key that supposedly went down a well under the sack. It's a sign of corruption and an attempt to manipulate the population. Napoleon announces an investigation into Snowball's activities. He and his dogs tour the farm, finding evidence of Snowball's scent everywhere. This frightens everyone. One evening, Squealer calls the animals to tell them that they have discovered something terrible. Snowball sold himself to Mr. Frederick and Pinchfield, and he plans to lead their attack on Animal Farm. Further, Snowball was in league or partnership with Mr. Jones all along, which they know because of newly discovered documents. He has been Jones's secret agent all time. Squealer insists that the battle of the cowshed is the result of his planning. The animals can't believe this statement because they had seen Snowball fighting against Jones. They also remember that Mr. Jones shot Snowball. Continuing to cast doubt on Snowball's loyalty at all gives Napoleon a way to make the animals trust him and him alone, which also has the effect of making the animals trust no one else, even those who might genuinely want to help. Boxer questions this and shares his recollection of events. He explains that Snowball had been provided with great honor of the first-class animal hero because he had been a great warrior. But Squealer insists he is mistaken. They have in Miss Snowball's own writing that Snowball was going to give them all away. His plot would have succeeded if Napoleon hadn't leapt at Mr. Jones crying death to humanity and bit Mr. Jones's leg. This graphic description helps the animals remember that Squealer's recollection is the correct one. But Boxer uneasily says that he still thinks that Snowball was on their side at the Battle of the Cowshed. Firmly, Squealer insists that, according to Napoleon, Snowball was in league with Mr. Jones long before the rebellion took place. This satisfies Boxer since Napoleon said it, but Squealer gives him an ugly look as he tells the animals to keep an eye out for Snowball's secret agents who are all over. Squealer makes the stakes very clear here when he reminds Boxer that Boxer isn't capable of reading Snowball's documents. This impresses upon Boxer that he truly isn't as intelligent as the pigs, which makes him far more willing to accept their rule and their stories as fact. Squealer is able to do this in part because he knows that despite his questioning, Boxer is unwaveringly loyal to Napoleon and the state he stands for, so insisting that Napoleon says that these are the facts is the only surefire way to convince Boxer. Last, we are going through assembling the animals. 4 days later, Napoleon orders the animals to assemble in the yard and emerges from the farmhouse wearing both his first and second class animal hero medals and surrounded by the dogs. The animals cower as Napoleon whimpers. The dogs drag the 4 young pigs to the front and 3 dogs leap at Boxer. Boxer slings them aside and pins one before looking at Napoleon for what to do next. Napoleon tells Boxer to let the terrified dog go. Boxer is stronger than the dogs. The 4 pigs are the same ones that protested when Napoleon did away with the Sunday meetings, and they confess crimes without hesitation. They say that they have been working with Snowball and plan to help him give Animal Farm to Mr. Frederick. They also give support that Snowball worked with Mr. Jones. When they are done, the dogs tear their throats out. Napoleon ensures that Boxer knows exactly where things stand. Because Boxer doesn't know his own strength. He doesn't know that he can just do away with the dogs easily. Napoleon asks who else has something to confess. 3 hens confess that in a dream, Snowball told them to disobey Napoleon. A goose confesses to stealing corn, and a sheep confesses that it urinated in the drinking pool on Snowball's orders. Others confess crimes and Napoleon slaughters them all. When it's over, the other animals move away, unsure which is more shocking. The fact that the dead animals were in league with Snowball or their punishment. This is the first time since Mr. Jones's departure that there has been bloodshed on the farm. The animals, except for the cat who disappeared, lie down together near the windmill while Boxer paces. Boxer announces that he wouldn't have believed that this could happen on Animal Farm, but it must have happened because they are at fault. He vows to get up an hour earlier and promptly rushes to the quarry. These confessions and executions, especially those of the 4 young pigs, mirror Stalin's short trials, in which many people confessed to all sorts of crimes and were killed for it. When Boxer blames the animals or the working class, instead of recognizing that Napoleon is turning into a bloodthirsty, power-hungry tyrant, it shows how successful Napoleon has been in manipulating the situation to favor him over anyone else. Clover and the other animals remain by the windmill. Clover is very emotional and begins to weep. She remembers the old major who had asked not to kill any animals. According to him, the aim of revolution had been to overthrow the regime of Jones. They look out over Animal Farm and remember that they own all of it. She would think that this wasn't the goal when they rebelled. Her idea of the future was animals free from abuse and hunger, working together, the strong protecting the weak. Instead, now nobody can speak their mind. Dogs growl, and they have to watch their friends be killed for confessing to awful crimes. She doesn't think of rebellion or disobedience, however, as she still recognizes that this is better than Mr. Jones's return would be. She will accept Napoleon's leadership, even if this wasn't what she hoped for. Clover and her fellow working class animals aren't able to stand up to Napoleon. They are too tired, overworked, and uneducated to be able to effectively formulate their thoughts and voice their concerns. Clover begins to sing Beasts of England, and the other animals join in and sing it mournfully. When they finish their third time through Squealer and two dogs arrive and announces that Beasts of England has been stopped. He clarifies that the song is meant for revolution. After revolution, the song is worthless. The society portrayed in Beasts of England is now established, so the song is useless. The animals are frightened and some consider protesting, but the sheep begin to bleat, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, and this ends any discussion. Minimus composes a song that begins, Animal farm, never through me shall thou come to harm. The song aims at the flattery of Napoleon. For most animals, the new song doesn't feel good to Beasts of England, but they can't oppose Squealer. Squealer recognizes that Animal Farm is in a place right now that's not at all different from Mr. Jones's rule, which necessitated Beasts of England as a unifying song. Now, however, allowing Beasts of England to be sung means that there is a chance the animals would realize that what they have now isn't actually what's spoken of in. In short, the song might steer them to rebellion all over again, necessitating this censorship to keep the pigs and dogs in power. Critical comments. The chapter discloses more facts about the Russian history. The food problem faced by animals reminds us of the problem which was created by the failure of Russian economic policies. Napoleon declares capital punishment for ducks and hens. Stalin too executed many officials in 1930. Thus, the methods adopted by Napoleon are similar to those of Stalin. Like Stalin, Napoleon's aim is to create fear and terror in the minds of subjects. Boxer, who slightly opposes Napoleon, is also attacked by the dogs of Napoleon. Thus, the values of democracy are converted into the fear of totalitarianism. Orwell, as a political thinker, observes that Russian Revolution was based on noble hopes and high ideals. But later on, the revolutions were influenced by the French Revolution, which laid emphasis on the centralization of power into one man.
അധ്യായം 7 കടന്നു പോകുമ്പോൾ സ്നോബോളിൽ മേലുള്ള പഴിചാരൽ തുടർന്നുകൊണ്ടേയിരുന്നു. മൃഗങ്ങളുടെ റേഷൻ വെട്ടിക്കുറച്ചു. വിംബറിൽ നിന്ന് എല്ലാം മറച്ചുവെക്കാൻ പല ടെക്നിക്കുകളും നെപ്പോളിയൻ ഉപയോഗിച്ചു. പുതിയ പ്രഖ്യാപനങ്ങൾ നിലവിൽ വന്നു. പിടക്കോഴികൾ മുട്ടയിട്ടാൽ ഉടൻ തന്നെ ഫാമിൽ കാഴ്ചവെക്കണമെന്ന നിയമം വന്നു. എന്നാൽ 9 കോഴികളുടെ മരണത്തോടെ അവ പ്രതിഷേധത്തിൽ നിന്ന് ഭയന്ന് പിന്മാറി. നെപ്പോളിയൻ സ്നോബോളിനെതിരെയുള്ള ദുഷ്പ്രചാരണം തുടർന്നുകൊണ്ടേയിരുന്നു. ബോക്സർ അത് വിശ്വസിക്കാൻ ആദ്യം തയ്യാറായില്ലെങ്കിലും സ്ക്വീലർ നെപ്പോളിയനോടുള്ള അവൻ്റെ മമത മുതലെടുത്തു. 4 പന്നികളും 3 പിടക്കോഴികളും വാത്തപ്പക്ഷിയും ഒരു ചെമ്മരിയാടും കുറ്റം ഏറ്റുപറച്ചിലൂടെ നിഷ്ഠൂരമായി കൊല്ലപ്പെട്ടു. ബീറ്റസ് ഓഫ് ഇംഗ്ലണ്ട് എന്ന ഗാനം നിർത്തലാക്കി. പകരം മിനിമസിൻ്റെ പുതിയൊരു ഗാനം കൊണ്ടുവന്നു. തീർച്ചയായും അത് നെപ്പോളിയനെ സ്തുതിച്ചുകൊണ്ടുള്ള ഒന്നായിരുന്നു.
All of you please go through the chapter 6 and 7. Thank you.